Hello, in this video we are talking together with Chris here.
Hello.
And we're talking about being the DM and how to DM. So that's the topic of discussion. Right, Chris, you have been a paid DM. And that you've put yourself down as a professional DM, which is quite
that's me again, bigging myself up, liking the sound of my own voice. I think it is that. But yeah, I mean, you get paid for something. It's technically a profession, isn't it? So I do run a paid group. Do run a paid group for a great couple of sort of group of lads who were on the lookout for someone to run one for their party. Put myself forward. So right, here you go. We'll have a free session. Crack on. If we gel, we gel. If we don't, no harm, no foul. We seem to have gelled. They're still here. So,
So in the DM guide, right, I read page 1. It says you're the inventor, the writer, storyteller, improviser, actor, and referee, and you'll probably enjoy some roles more than others. And then it says focus on the aspects you enjoy and dial down the rest. And I had a little bit of an eyebrow raise at that because yes, everyone DM's different, and yes, everyone's better at different things. Surely you have to acknowledge the 3 pillars of D&D. You want combat, you want exploration, you want social interaction. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I completely agree that you have to have everything in its own balance. And I think one of the real big skills about DMing is knowing your group.
Yeah.
And knowing what they want, what they're looking for, and what their expectations of the game are. And I think there's a lot of variation in expectations on a DM, because you'll get some who go into a group and they're like, right, do you know what? I've watched 2 seasons of Critical Role. My DM is going to be Matt Mercer, but Yorkshire. And I dial it back. Yeah, if you ordered Matt Mercer off Wish, you may get somewhere near me. But that sort of dynamic storytelling, voices, voice acting, and that can be an expectation from some groups. But I think an underline in that section of maybe not dial that down the rest, but set expectations and manage expectations. Because I've multiple groups on the go that I DM for, and they are very, very different.
Yeah.
I have one group who is incredibly role play focused, and that includes a lot of improvisation on my part, a lot of linking of strong story tethers to their backstories to drive a big overarching plot that's going to be both epic and satisfying. And we could go sessions without combat.
Yeah. Because
the story doesn't warrant it. You don't want combat for combat's sake in a role play heavy game.
Yeah.
But on the other side, my other group, they love a fight. They love knocking down monsters, tearing through orifices and, coming away with epic loot at the end of it. And it makes them enjoy the game. And that's what they want. So, dialing back, but it's more about tailoring for me.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you'll agree.
What about when you've got both in a group, though? Like, I have that. I have my son and somebody else who just want to hack and slash and do their stuff. Whereas somebody else is like, can we not just talk to the monster and get over it? We don't have to kill everything to get past it.
See, there is always that. And I'm very much that agency. And this is, again, it comes back to setting expectations. That agency should be on the players. Yeah, I've dealt with murder hobo groups. I've had one, I've run one. They just wanted to stab everything and ask questions, never. And that was a big learning point for me as a DM, was, right, in my sessions era, did I really get a glimpse of what they're wanting? And are they wanting conflict resolution? Is everyone in that group singing from the same hymn sheet?
Yeah.
And it comes down to, look, it's not a video game. It is not just hit monster with big pointy stick until monsters stop moving. You can have these alternate way round. It doesn't always have to be an attack. So in my most recent game that I've played, my group are in a purely homebrew world. They're up against a cabal of sort of various, I don't want to give too much away in case they're watching, but villainous intent, shall we say. And they found one. And they could have easily gone, right, do you know what? We've tracked her down. We're going to go up there. We're going to leather 10 shades out of her with whatever weapons we've got and be done with it. And because they're wanting to learn more, and it's not just about that, and they've got this expectation of what this story is that they're wanting to craft, they came up with this ingenious plan of sneaking into a tower, pretending to be rooftop badger inspectors. No idea, but they rolled well, and it was entertaining. And then sneaking up and going under the rafters and coming up behind this this Kenku for just to set the scene. And it crafted this beautiful moment where we've got this monk who's had invisibility cast on him, really creeping across this, making stealth roll after stealth roll to not hit a loose tile or something. It built this incredible scene of tension where this invisible arm comes full circle. The invisibility spell breaks and he's got his arm around this Kenku's neck. He's like, "You're coming with us." And it was that point of, right, they're going to actually interrogate this person, which it drove an incredible different line down the narrative. But I've also prepared for, well, what if they just kill her?
Yeah.
What it's knowing which different paths you could take. I think the big thing is, as a DM, you're a facilitator, not the sole writer.
Yes.
And being able to facilitate the paths your players want to take, and not having things carved in stone. You've got to be fluid and be flexible, and be able to sort of roll with the punches and move with where the story goes.
But you think about a fresh DM, someone who's watching this thing, yeah, I want to become the DM, but I've not yet made that leap. And the pressure, you've got all your, let's say there's 5 people around the table looking at you behind the DM screen. It's like, what's the balancing act between you have to have a story in place? They want to hear the story, they want to have the clues and the path vaguely laid out to the finale. And yet, as a DM, you soon realise that you're outnumbered. You're in a pub and this guy's going to come over in a minute and say, "Hey guys, do you want to take this money and come over this cave?" And we're off. And yet, someone's like, "Well, I just murdered him. If this weird guy's come over, I get him in a stranglehold." And you're like, no, you can't, And it's a hard balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you balance where you need the story to go and what the players need to do to have fun?
Yeah, I mean, I'd always encourage it for sort of newer people, because it's where I started, and the only reason I encourage it is because of what I know, is to start with something pre-written. A starter set is always a great place for a DM because it's a loosely railroaded story, and you know where it's gone, and you can read ahead.
Yeah.
The beauty about homebrew is there's no ahead. You can make up where ahead is. The characters change the story. Oh, well, I've changed mine. But with a pre-written story, you've got a destination in mind, and when you know the destination, you can plan an alternate route. So you're saying, "Oh, the guy comes up to you, I want to give you the money to come in this cave," and one of them, "Nah, do you know what? Stab them. Money is mine." Well, do you know what? Yeah, you've been arrested by the town guard for murder, but you didn't kill him, and he's come. Right, I was going to offer you gold. You owe me now. I'll bail you out, but you owe me.
Yeah.
And because of what happened last time, look at all these guards I've brought with me, and they all know your faces.
That's true.
Are you coming or are you not?
Yeah.
And if they're not, then they've got a jailbreak situation on their hands, and it opens up a bit more of an option. They've got different routes they can go down. But again, I think I keep coming back to it, setting expectations. A strong session 0 is the key to any good campaign in my book. You know your players, you know what they want. When I started with a completely unknown group and my paid group, rather than put them straight into the campaign setting, I gave them a one-shot. I gave them a one-shot with no stakes, other than the plot of the one-shot.
Yeah.
To see how they act, to see what they're going to do. Are they going to just go up and kill the friendly goblin who's minding his own business with a shiny pebble in his hand?
Yeah.
Or are they going to take the time to go, "Oh, do you know what? This could be a good point for roleplay." Are they going to go and help the villagers? Are they looking for that heroic fantasy? Or are they looking for want of a better word, a power trip? Are they looking to be, mighty stalwart conquerors who roam the countryside killing monsters a la Geralt of Rivia? Or are they looking for that more whole-rounded high fantasy adventure? And I think it all comes down to understanding.
Yeah.
And asking the right questions and letting them ask questions.
I'll tell you another good thing. You talk about session 0, which I never used to do. That's a good way, to test the players, but also to put in a 2-sided fight. You come across a brawl, and when you pull them apart, you don't know who's the right and in the wrong. So you have to present, well, he did this to me, yeah, but he did this to me, and then you see whether the players just, I'm going to kill these people, or whether they take, well, he sounds like he's doing the right moralistic thing, and you get a clue there, don't you?
Yeah, and again, it's providing these little nucleation points for RP.
Yeah.
And these little points where RP can spring forth and be really good, but you've given them the choice.
Mm.
They could just go, not my business, I'm out. Back to the tavern we go. You know, and I've had that. You know, I've had that where they've gone, no, there's a cat over there. I'm going to go and pet it. Can I make an animal handling check?
Yes.
Yeah. You know what? You can. You can. They're going to continue fighting.
Now, that brings me to player engagement, you know, because as a DM, you're eagerly wanting to put on a show and have everyone be happy. But when you've got some people who they'll role play back at every NPC you do, whereas some people don't want to do that. They're just waiting for the next fight. What's your tips for that?
It's like we were saying earlier about making sure you've got everyone understood. And like I say, you know what people are wanting. And yeah, do you know what? Someone might be waiting for the combat, but giving them the options to maybe not necessarily do combat, but to use the skills of their character. To make those roles and to ingrain them in the story. Even if they're not wanting to, say, participate in active dialogue.
Yeah.
To be like, right, yeah, okay, combat doesn't suit where the story is at the minute. It makes zero sense for there to be combat here.
Yeah.
But you're playing a rogue. There's a way I can work stealth into this. There's a way there's an opportunity for the rogue to sneak in somewhere, to get some information, to be making those stealth rolls, and to have their own little moment where the spotlight's on them. Because I tend to find that's what people like about combat. Their focus is on them.
Yeah.
And it's when their turn comes around, they're like, oh, they're going to make this big epic gesture. You know, I want to make an acrobatics check to leap off the wall with my sword and, you know, come in with these great big glaring cuts. But they want the little spotlight just to be on them for a bit.
Yeah.
But you can do it without combat. And that's not to say combat's not a tool. You should absolutely use combat. Combat should be brilliant. But if every session's combat, then it makes those high epic encounters just that, for me, just that little bit more meaningless. Because, oh well, do you know what? It's just another monster. Killed 30 of them in the last session.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, they might see it. Well, the monster's got more hit points. Oh, the monster's got some resistances. But if it's just another monster and it's just another trek through Monsterville, then it can lose its weighting. And I think that comes in what you're saying of crafting a story and having something for everyone.
Yeah.
And you could just have it as, all right, do you know what? Even if it's not crafting in a roll or a sneaking, that pub's got a fight pit. You know what? You can enter, you can win some gold. There's a fight pit going on. And while that's happening, your group, your colleagues, your adventuring party, well, they can be out talking to people and doing a bit of investigating and some RP, because if that's what they're wanting. There's no harm in D&D, even as a theatre of the mind or as a tabletop, in a good old camera pan. Right, we've done a round of combat, pan over, 5 minutes of RP. This is going on in the background. Oh, pan back, what's going on? The actions, they're still fighting away in the pit. And it does that sort of ability to switch between. Because you're not relying on camera work, you're not relying on screens and like a film or anything. You can jump. And you can give everyone that little bit of what they're after, if that's what they need.
Yeah.
Sometimes players just have to take a slight back seat if it's not what they want to enjoy for the good of the group. You've just got to put your big person pants on and deal with it.
Yeah, it is like spinning plates, and I do that. If that in a tavern, especially to cover both points you just made, there's skills available in a tavern for every type of character, whether it's barbarian sees an arm wrestling person sat at the table. You know, arm wrestling is like, right, I'm not going to go at that. You've got the poker players for sleight of hand stealing, rogues, you know, switching cards out. You know, you've just got your charisma people for talking to the villagers, getting some feedback on what's going on. The bard can play in the corner or out-bard the bard. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, and then you have to go, right, the bard goes over, you do this, you have this 2-minute section, then you go, halt there, right. And over in this arm wrestling thing, roll me a stuff. Yeah, you just go back and round, don't you?
Yeah, I say, good old camera pans.
Yeah,
I've done it. I've done it in cities. I've had a group split across a city. So one of my parties I run for, they're in a homebrew town, and they did this. They split the party into 2 sets of 3. And all we're doing, right, we're over here for 20 minutes. Right, what are you RPing? Camera pan, other side of the city. Right, this is what's going on over here. And because they're involved in the story, they're just actively listening. And they're thinking, right, okay, I've got a little break now. What's my next move? Because that's one thing that does. I realize if we want to jump into talking about combat later, I'll save my breath.
We'll get there.
In fact, I'll save my point.
Right.
But just about timing.
Hmm.
If we get back to combat, remind me about timing, because my good old ADHD brain may well forget.
Yeah, got it. So player engagement we've sort of done, but rule dispute. You know, if you're outvoted, if you've got all your players looking at you like, no, I don't like that. Do you then go, okay, I know I'm the DM, but I'm changing things, or do you say, I'm the DM? This is how it goes.
So I play in a group with three other DMs. So I have three. I would class them as very good DMs in one of my games, because all three of them have DM'd for me, and I've been a player in their games. And if there is a rules issue, it depends when it comes up. If it comes up in the heat of the moment, and I'm currently giving a monologue, and they're like, oh, I want to cast this spell, and I'm like, well, hang on, is it distance? Is it this? Is it that? If it's something that can't be solved with a quick 30-second scan of D&D Beyond, and it sounds plausible in the moment, I'll rule a cool it. If it makes sense and it's something the character can do, and there's a moment, then I'll allow it.
Yeah,
because it's a bit more of player agency. That doesn't mean to say I won't look at it later and say, actually, do you know what? I'd let you get away with it once, but technically, for next time, bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Rule-wise, no one's perfect. No one knows the player's handbook and the DMG back to back, cover to cover, unless they've got an eidetic memory. They don't. I doubt even the people who work at Wizards know the book back to front, every little rule, every little subset.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've just got to roll with it. It's that part of being flexible. It's like I was saying earlier, that little bit of flexibility and that little bit of being able to roll with the punches. Yeah, okay, well, we'll roll with it now, but we'll check on it later.
Yeah.
But the same way, if I do something and they're like, not sure that's right. All right, well, right, now we'll roll with it now. We'll come back to it, and if it then becomes a serious problem, then we'll address it. So if I made a rules mistake, for instance, and it cost a party member their life, and I have done, I did at the start of my DM journey, I made a massive boo boo in Lost Mines of Phandelver, where they go into the goblin hideout.
Yes,
and there's the bugbear, bugbear, overlord that's in there. I misread his stat block. I misread it because it says brutal. And it does an extra, is it 2d8 or an extra d8? What I didn't see was in brackets included in damage. Already in. So I saw 2d8 and thought, brutal, 3d8.
Yeah.
Thwack. Dead party member.
Level 1 or 2?
Level 1.
Yeah.
Level 1. Level 1, 3d8, gnome wizard, turn to mist. Rest in peace, Tilmek. But I made a mistake. And I told the player, I said, look, I made a mistake. I said, what I can do is I can retcon it if you want to keep playing that player.
Yeah.
And the guy is a really good DM. He's a fantastic player. And he went, no, I've got another character in mind. And the character went on to play, went from level 1 to level 20 in that campaign. But you're going to make mistakes. I think a big thing about people getting into DMing is they're afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Mistakes are where you learn.
That's true.
I learned to read stat blocks. This was right at the start. Let's say the start of my DM journey. I've probably been doing it for a year and a bit, but I still made a mistake.
Yeah.
Just got to own up to it and move on.
Yeah. I'll tell you something. That's exactly where I made a mistake. Where I'd coerced a friend, a workmate, to finally come and play D&D, because that's all I ever used to speak about. What have you been up to? I've been playing D&D. That's what I do. Yeah. And I finally got him to come around. And in that very encounter in Lost Mines, there's a bugbear. And I can't remember if there's a campfire in that exact room, but I had a little campfire room. And I crit the level 1 player with that bugbear. And he was failing his death saves anyway. And I just thought, hey, this is it. He picks up, there's no way he's going to live. I was like, I've rolled so much damage, you are completely dead. He picks up your body, throws it on the fire to add insult to injury. It's like, you're proper dead. So I thought I'd make his death and the climatic moment cool, but I never saw that player again. I killed him first session, thinking, now you just roll a new character, and he was just like, no. He thought he'd lost D&D. He thought, I can't play D&D because I was so bad at it. and I didn't do any job in conveying that. I was just like, isn't it cool? Do you want to come next week and play a different character? And he didn't. He just never came back.
Yeah, well, I lost a player in the exact same moment, because where I killed the gnome and I had a conversation, I also killed another player. He failed his death save. It wasn't massive damage where it wiped him straight off the board like it was with the gnome wizard. And he's a massive video gamer. Again, good mate of mine. And I just don't think he enjoyed it. He thought, I've lost. I'm going to have to start again. I'm going to have to come up with a new character. Yeah. I've only just started learning this one.
Yeah.
And it lost him. And I think another thing that not affects D&D is people do come in sometimes with a video game mentality.
Oh, yeah.
And that can be extremely off-putting when things don't go the way they're expecting, which again brings me back to setting expectations, which I clearly didn't do a good job of in that first session.
Yeah.
Of setting that expectation. And again, that's on me, but it's something I've learned from. And as a DM, you're constantly learning, you're constantly developing, you're constantly picking up new bits, constantly hybridizing things that look cool. So I'm a massive fan of High Rollers, the British D&D stream. Religiously, every week. That's my drive into work. Listen to the podcast, get on with it, love the story. Yeah. And there's moments I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna take that. But I can also find their mistakes, because at the end of the day, they're human.
Yeah,
they're human beings just like you and me, and they make mistakes. And I'm like, that's a really good point. They've made that mistake.
Yeah,
I can learn from that myself, and I can deal with that. And you're constantly, always learning. I mean, yeah, I say I'm a paid DM, which some people agree with, some people don't. That's fine. No one's forcing you to do it. It's a personal choice. But you're always going to be learning. I dare say, where one D&D comes out, I'll probably still be playing 5th edition. I'll be honest. I've learned all the learned all the map making software for it now, and if things change, I'm a bit of a stickler for change. But things will change, and I dare say there'll be things in one D&D. I'll go, I'm going to bring that in.
Yeah,
I'm going to have that. Or there's I've taken the minion rules. I think is that MCM.
I'm not sure.
But the minion rules, and particularly my last campaign, I ran a weird homebrew hybrid mashup. So I started with Lost Mines of Phandelver. I transitioned into Out of the Abyss. I linked them together because there's a drow at the end of Lost Mines, and I linked him to the start of Out of the Abyss. So all through this Lolth and these drow raids, and the party get captured and dragged into the Abyss, and that kicks off that event. And then we got to the end of, sort of towards the end of Out of the Abyss, and I thought, looking at the story and reading ahead and knowing where the plot's going, I didn't like the outcomes of Out of the Abyss. I didn't like the finale.
Did you do the rules as written? Because I did the variant
No.
finale.
Oh, I completely wrote my own.
Oh.
So I twisted it. So I can talk about this because the campaign's finished now. One of my players, brand new player, he'd never played D&D before, and he went, I'm going to go half orc fighter. Great. Solid start. Great beginner class is that. Straightforward. Becomes suitably epic further down the line. He got right into roleplay. He got right into his character. He built his confidence. He was interacting. He was fighting. He was doing everything you could ask for a player to do. And I thought, I'm going to throw him a curveball. In his backstory, he was this half orc whose tribe had been wiped out, and he was like feeling like a weakling, and he wanted this search for power and justice, and to come back and be strong enough that he could have saved his tribe. It's quite brutal. He was a really good, brutal character. So I had that drow drop a dagger, a sentient dagger. That whispered to him, and I was just sending him little private messages, promises of power, promises of this. And I just went, look, you're doing really well. I said, tell me where to stick it. I said, but you can always multiclass, and I explained multiclassing to him. And he took a level in Warlock with this promise of power. And this sentient dagger went from being just a throwaway item that I put in to try and let him change his character and give him an option, to being the big bad of Out of the Abyss. I had this dagger was actually a tool of Grast, and he was pulling the strings, and he was in the background. He'd made an alliance with Lolth, and they were pulling the strings to wipe out all the big players in the Abyss, to draw them all into one place and let them beat the living hell out of each other until only they were left. And then I had a bit of a twist where Grast was just pulling the strings a little bit higher and was playing Lolth, because you've got that deception side of things there. And he became the warlock became a patron, a warlock of Graz. but he didn't know he was the big bad.
Yeah.
So he had this patron all the way through to about level 13, 14. No, maybe a bit less. And then we revealed that Graz was the big bad.
Yeah.
And it got to this beautiful moment where he denounced Graz and he got rid of his weapon. And he went without a weapon for a while, a good solid while, before he decided he was going to side with the cleric and he was going to side with Lathander and the Light. And I let him make various checks. And then his Warlock went from Pact of Hexblade to Pact of the Celestial.
Right. Excellent.
But it's opening up that dynamic and those sorts of points. And then I've got a really, really, really narked off Demon Lord now. He's lost his favourite toy and he's coming after you. And do you know what he's going to do? He's going to take your hometown. He's going to destroy everything you've worked for. And then it became this epic level 15 to level 20 fight back against this now overpowered Demon Lord. Going back to the point I was initially making, I told you I run away with my words, was I used the minion rules.
Yeah.
So I set up this huge conflict at the gates of Azagrat. It was like a Lord of the Rings-esque siege. And I let them acquire units. You know, they had Brunor Battlehammer, who's a big part about the Abyss. His dwarven units. They had these orcs that they'd rescued a long time ago. They had all these like different units and different things on different powers. And I went, right, you're each responsible for your minions. And I created these minion, stat blocks, gave them to them. I was like, right, that's what your minions can do on their own. If you amalgamate with your unit, you can have a special bonus power. But any damage that goes to that unit is also going on you. So it's a risk versus reward scenario. But I also put the minions on the monsters side.
Yeah.
And when you've got 300 minions, and minions don't make saving throws, you don't have to roll from it. It's like an automatic damage dealt to a unit. So if a minion runs through, right, you've taken 12 damage from these minions. When you're at level 19, it doesn't really matter that much.
No.
But when they're sweeping through with a glowing mace, and you're describing how, like Sauron coming through, sweeping blows, bodies flying everywhere, and they've got this epic moment. They're like, we're level 19. We're in the depths of the abyss, and I am knocking these demons left, right, and centre because I'm overpowered now. I am a hero of the realm, and I am just clearing these minions because that's where I'm going, and that's where the big bad is. It creates such an epic moment. I mean, I gave them some dragon units to tie in with one of the players' backstories. They have these golden dragons. And there's a moment, because I class the dragons as, a collective. And when they lost a certain amount of hit points, one of the dragons had died. And there's a moment where they're all running in and they're all beating, and they just describe this dragon plummeting in and smacking into the ground. And it was a real moment. Like, God, we've lost a dragon. That's the stakes of this battle. We've just lost a dragon, but we're here clearing through. And it allowed you to have those high-level epic moments. Because high level, you could have, here's an army of goblins. 1 hit, you've killed a goblin. 2 hit, you've killed a goblin. 3 hit, so on and so on. Minion rules. All right, you come in, you've got a group of goblins who all act as like a swarm. 1 hit. High level, you've wiped the whole swarm out. They are gone. And you pitch the level right to where you're going to. And it can make these epic moments.
My son, he's like, looks at level 20 and thinks, I want to come back to this village and to be able to kill people with a snap of a finger. And people go on about, power balance. It's like, no, they want to have things a breeze. They don't, you're always trying to give them a equal footing with a monster. And they're like, no, we want to walk through and breeze this city.
Yeah. There's something really powerful for throwing the odd low-level encounter at a slightly higher-level party, just to show them how far they've come. So fair. The bandits they were worried about at level 3, at level 7 are no longer a problem.
Yeah.
And these bandits were terrorizing this town. They chased us out last time. Well, lo and behold, who's terrorizing the next village? Right. Now we're on.
Yeah.
And you give them that moment of just pure heroism. It can create those like golden moments.
Yeah.
That ingrain in their memories when they think back on a campaign. It might not be the climactic boss battle they had where they nearly died. I hope it is, because you spend a lot of time crafting those moments.
Yeah.
But it could just be that moment they got their own back on that snivelling little bandit captain.
So combat then, combat and timing. You wanted me to remind you of. Talk about some combat.
Yes, combat can be fun, particularly when, and again, I keep saying it, setting expectations. 6 seconds, that's your round.
Yeah.
All of this is happening in 6 seconds. It needs to be combat trackers, fantastic. I don't tend to use one. I've got some really experienced players. They know when they're up. I have it in my little notebook. I'm very much a pen and paper DM, even though I play through Roll20. But getting players, and a big part of why games drag on, particularly combat-heavy games, is people don't think on their turn while they're not fighting. They sit and they listen. Right, Chris, it's your turn. What? Oh, right. I'm just going to let me look through my 37 spells. What am I going to do? Oh, hang on. Was it resistant to lightning earlier? Oh, it was. Right. Let's not use lightning law. Let's use something. And it just breaks immersion. And I think making sure all your players know, look, when it's not your turn, you need to be decided. Come up with a couple of actions you could do because things will change.
Yeah.
Enemies might move, but have a couple of options you're ready to roll with. And the same goes for the DM. I'm keeping track of monster hit points. But while their turn, I'm thinking, what are my monsters doing? I'm thinking, where are their tactics? Now, I don't know if you've got it. The book, The Monsters Know What They're Doing.
Yes.
It's a fantastic book that I use way more than I probably should. But being able to have those tactics in the back of your mind. And it also, there's no reason why combat can't be RP, and knowing how your character is going to react. Like, your character is scared of spiders. Right. He ain't going anywhere near it. He's going to use range. It makes very, very little sense for a character who in your backstory he's chronically afraid of spiders. Well, here he is running in greatsword first into the mouths of a phase spider. It makes no sense. But knowing what your character will do and knowing how they will react is a big part of what player agency needs to be. They need to know what they're doing, how they're going to do it. And like I said, it's on you to set that expectation. And there's nothing wrong with prompting. Again, one of my players, I play in her game. If someone's taking too long, she'll tell you. 6 seconds. All she says, 6 seconds. What are you doing? And it's that speed, because combat can take forever. I've had a session that's just been a whole encounter.
Yes, me too.
Because they're fighting something with a metric ton of hit points. I won't swear in case children watch it. But, you've the potential to it, but there's no reason it needs to take longer than it has to.
Yeah, combat is or can be something I really look forward to with the monsters. Oh, they do this thing that's going to either eviscerate somebody or just be really cool and unexpected. And then halfway through combat, we're just watching numbers fall, and it's like, isn't it dead yet? Isn't it dead? You know what I mean? Or it's also knowing about attacking players. Okay, you've got people who stay back, like you say. They're like, I'm not going up against that thing. You don't want to get too close. But other players are a barbarian. They have to move in. So when you start tanking that one barbarian all the time, they're like, why is he always going after me? Well, you're at its feet. But also, as a DM, you're thinking, I need to attack everybody. But then why would I when this thing's on my head, stabbing me in the brain? Surely, I think, like, it grabs you and it throws you off. It reset the players,
I think there's a lot to be said about when you're balancing an encounter. And it's something one of my players said to me. He says, you never fail to find a way to challenge my abilities. And he'd built a very, very powerful Sorlock. He'd built a sorcerer warlock, and one of the moments he just said to me, oh, can I have go to the shop and buy some ball bearings? I thought nothing of it. Until he's using animate object, and all of a sudden he's got an arcane shotgun.
Yeah.
Each ball bearing considered a small object.
Yeah.
And he's got a bag of them. And he decimated some monsters with that. So I'm thinking, right, next encounter, how do I combat their abilities? What's going to be challenging to them? Yeah, big monster with a load of hit points. Your barbarians on the front line. I try and say it in my tone when I'm rolling, and I'm like, right, I'm going to roll. He's coming for you because you're in his face. You're in his face. You're the biggest threat to him right now. Roll. And almost like I'm justifying my rolls. And it just gives them that little hint inside the mind of the villain, the mind of the monster, of this is what they're thinking. It might be a bit meta, it might be a little bit game breaking, but it helps the players understand my action. It might be a case of, right, the barbarian's really up in the grill of this enemy. The enemy's not got that many hit points. I won't say that much. But I'll be like, they want to get out of here. Right, Misty Step. Misty Step, they're out. They've noticed your weak link's your wizard at the back. They're going straight for him, because if they take the wizard out, that's your main, your main range damage dealers out of commission, and they can pick off and work around the rest of you. But having little other enemies to either run interference or to complement the abilities of your big bad that can, cast invisibility on them, or can do something that's going to change the tide of a battle, so it doesn't just become a slogfest of I hit you, you hit me, I hit you, you hit me. And having those little moments or game changers, or even like an environmental reaction.
Absolutely.
Change the battlefield, change the scope, change a stalagmite falling because you've got spells being bashed off the roof. Right, a stalagmite's landed right in the middle of you. It's caused a break. And you get that, Darth Maul, Obi-Wan on the side of the force barrier in Phantom Menace, where they're pacing each other, trying to suss each other out to get back into the fight. Have something that gives it that break, that gives it that moment. Throw in a bit of dialogue. Throw in a taunt or a jab or something that's going to engage a player that's maybe not as engaged in the fight because they're on the outer side. I love doing little snippets of dialogue, particularly as a player. I have a paladin that I play at the minute, and I always try and make sure I'm either interacting with my colleagues, or I'm threatening the enemy, or I'm this. I try to play him as like Dirty Harry, but Dragonborn paladin. This sort of like little bit of a stinging barb to make him come and try and get me, and having those little breaks from the numbers.
Yeah.
Which is challenging in a numbers-based game. But those little hooks that you can get in a player and leave them just thinking of, right, I don't like you. Or, right, that's changed. Can I use that to my advantage? That stalagmite's fallen. Right, ranger, high ground. You've got these different ways you can twist and manipulate a battlefield.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in battle maps. I love battle maps. But I'll always make a slightly varied version that just changes something. It could be a fallen rock. It could be a jet of lightning. It could be a steam pipe that's ruptured in a dwarven forge. Something that's going to add an element of danger or a new obstacle that they're going to have to overcome.
Yeah.
I say always. I run straightforward combat. Sometimes it's just necessary.
Yes.
Or that there's something that's changed, or there's someone you hadn't spotted, or that that there's an added level that you hadn't considered. And I remember having reinforcements. Reinforcements can be a massive tide turner, because do they stay and fight? Do they run? How many are coming?
Yeah.
What's happening? Who's coming? All of a sudden, all right, you hear really heavy footsteps. Do any of you can quick look at the languages? Right, none of you speak the language being spoken.
Yeah.
And then a couple of rounds later, an ogre walks in, swinging a club to a low-level party. That's terrifying. They may well turn and run, because they may not know what's coming. I also like using third-party monsters.
Yes, because they don't know the stat blocks, do they?
They don't know the stat blocks. And particularly when you're playing with experienced DMs.
Yeah.
They know the weaknesses. They know if you hit an ogre. Is it an ogre? Am I thinking? No, troll. Sorry. Hit a troll with fire, you stop its regeneration.
Yes.
And it's hard, because I've done it. It's hard for experienced DMs to not metagame subconsciously, because I know troll fire. Now I've got to get in the head of my character. My character doesn't know that.
Yeah.
So I've been using, and I've got one to hand because it's my latest one that's arrived. The Tome of Beast books.
What a beautiful
the
book.
Kobold Press ones.
Yeah.
Fantastic. There's probably I've got all three. There's probably about 27,000 monsters in there I may never use.
Yeah.
But there's some in there I already have. I think there's one in Tome of Beast 2 or something like that. It's a great big shambling mound of vines and skulls. And every time you chop off a tentacle, the tentacle becomes its own little sentient triffid that's coming after you. And I put one of them in a sewer. You come across a mound of bones, interwoven vines through the eye sockets, and they're all going, ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. I'm going to skirt round that. Don't trust that, but that doesn't sound like anything out of the Monster Manual.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the Honor Amongst Thieves movie. It's kind of like, I've never seen this before. Is it a red herring? Is it a trap? It's a monster. but you've never seen it before. You don't know. I put them against another one, which was a snail, a really weird, unassuming snail, but it had like a snake's head, and it spits acid.
You're right.
But it also makes anywhere it moves difficult terrain.
I think I might have seen that one. Yeah, yeah.
And they'd never seen it before. And it was new, it was fresh. But even changing existing monsters, oh yeah, it's a roper, but it's been in a cave so long, it's developed a skin of almost rock-like substance. It's immune to bludgeoning damage.
Yeah.
They don't know. But all of a sudden, when the cleric comes in with a mace and bonk, yeah, it's taken some damage, but you see as a bit of rock crumbles from its surface. Now they've got to think, this isn't what I expected.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Yeah, it is keeping on the roper theme, but found in a magma cave. It's resistant to fire, and it also does bonus fire damage if it grabs you. It's no longer going for a bite attack. It's trying to incinerate you.
Yeah.
Little changes to keep people on the toes. Because you can rinse and repeat the same monsters in an environment, but have little variation can make a lot of difference.
The easiest surprise is to give it spell casting, and they notice it's got like a ring on its pouch or an amulet, or like you say, a troll has found some sort of necklace that makes it immune to fire damage, which is what it wants, and it maybe can cast some sort of fire, lightning, just make it up. And they're like, it just did what? Like there's a T-Rex in a campaign book that can do Misty Step and spells, and this T-Rex just disappears and appears behind them, and everyone's like, wait, what's happening?
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I've played a few campaign books. Like I've done sort of Legacy of Dragons. I've done Out of the Abyss, and then I've sort of done a lot more homebrew stuff. But there's some fantastic bits to be said for source books.
Yeah.
And just taking ideas.
It is a good place to start, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Even if you want to make it your own and twist it, it's the best place to start. It's something that's already got track.
Yeah. So we're going to finish on backseat DMing, as we touched on before we started here.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. How do you not backseat DM, or do you appreciate the help?
I think it comes back into what we were saying earlier about those rules challenges. There are moments where I will backseat DM, but I tend to keep it to when I know it's going to be something detrimental to another player or to the story. And I think there's a correct way to raise it. I have not always been raising it in the correct way. It's something that, it takes tact, and it takes knowing your players and knowing the DM that's playing for you. Are they okay with you chipping in? Are they okay with you correcting them? Are they going to get upset by it? Do you have to handle it in a certain way? And I think sometimes the backseat DMing, you maybe have to wait till the session's over. But I don't think there's anything wrong with guiding your fellow players to an extent. It might not just be a throwaway comment of range, I like a spell, and you just be like, just check, is it touch? Is it 30 feet? Is it 60 feet?
Yeah.
I think if you know something and you can stop the having to scroll through books or having to check D&D Beyond to come up with something, it can be a time saver. If you're being nitpicky about every single rule, or, well, I don't do it like that in my game, I do it differently.
Yeah.
Well, go back to your own game.
Yes.
But setting expectations. If you know you've got DMs in your game, I know for a fact, if I mess something up, I've got 3 good DMs. I don't mind if they tell me.
Yeah.
They have in the past. They've gone, are you sure about that? Are you sure that's right? Sometimes I'm wrong. Only human. But again, it's knowing your party, knowing your expectations, knowing what's going to come from it. I've been rules lawyered by players. Fine. End of the day, they know their character sheet better than I do.
Yeah.
Marginally, or they should do. But they're like, oh, actually, hang on, I've got this. Have you forgotten about this? Do you know what? Yes, I had. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes.
I think with everything, there's a time and a place. In the middle of the villain's monologue is not the time and place. In the middle of a hero's monologue or an epic moment of description, or there's a moment where it's right. Do I say this out loud? Do I send it as a subtle message?
Yeah.
Do I send it as a little note in Messenger or Discord? Everyone's going to forget something at some point. And it comes down to, can you rule of cool it? Can you make it work? Or does someone else know the answer?
Yeah. Keep the game moving. That's what they say, isn't it?
That's it. It's moving forward. If the game grinds to a halt, then you've got to try and get it going again. Yeah. And that takes more effort and more energy. Whereas if you can keep it bouncing along, then all right, right, I'll let it go for now. We'll deal with it later.
Yes, that's the best way.
yeah, just keep it rolling.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like you said, this is totally the tip of the iceberg of DMing. I'm sure we'll cover it.
Yeah. We could do hours upon hours. I'll be glad to come back and do more if you want. But
absolutely, I've got a total list. Fudging rolls, session 0, session prep. Yeah, there's all sorts to talk about. But Chris, for now, thank you so much for being a guest.
No, it's been a pleasure.